All right, in this video, we're going over 3 different types of disclosures, starting with the lead-based paint disclosure. So this is only used, right, for properties built on or before 1978. The federal law requires this document in any sale, and you'll see there's a section for the seller to fill out saying their acknowledgement of whether they have knowledge of lead-based paint or not, and whether they have reports pertaining to lead-based paint or not. Then the buyer acknowledges the document. It says, okay, so the seller fills this out first, right? You sign it. And then when you go under contract, you provide this disclosure to the buyer, and they choose whether they want to obtain a risk assessment or an inspection of the property or waive that opportunity. Please know that both parties and you, listing broker, sign this document. All right, next we're moving over to the square footage disclosure. So you'll see that there's a few sections here that the licensee has measured or other source of measurement. We typically use section 2, other source of measurement. I suggest you research the square footage for your listings, right? Check the prior MLSs, check Realist Tax, look for consistent measurements, especially if you're choosing assessor's office, because you'll want to make sure, because the buyer or the listing agent or the buyer's agent is going to be looking this up too. So the date that you pulled the report, the square footage you have here. Sometimes if there's finished or unfinished square footage in the basement, we like to include that in other. So let's say we put basement and then finished over unfinished. And this is just to provide more information to the buyer, right? So let's say it's total 800 or 700 square footage in the basement, 500 of it's finished, 200's not. You can do something like that. If you have a prior appraisal from your client, that is fantastic. That is typically more accurate than the MLS unless they, added on a sunroom or something. So make sure you check prior appraisal, put the date of the document in, that correct square footage. I would also provide that part of the appraisal in the due diligence docs, right? Please note this section. Measurement may not be exact and is for the purposes of marketing only. It is not for a loan valuation or any other purposes. If the exact square footage is a concern, the property should be independently measured. So typically your buyer will get their own appraisal if they're getting a loan, or they can have it measured by, any kind of company that does square footage measurements. You, as the broker, listing broker, also sign this document. Finally, the biggest disclosure, the seller's property disclosure. This one you cannot fill out for your client. They must fill it out themselves, right? And they must complete it to their current actual knowledge as of this date, which means some of the information could be wrong, right? This can only be filled out by the seller, as we said, not you. Point out to them the legality of this document and disclosure requirements, because this document is the biggest source of legal issues. Show them as they're filling it out, or before they fill it out, the difference in the headers of each section, right? Because they change from saying ever existing. So is there a building condition problem that has ever existed, like a structural issue or moisture or water intrusion? Or let's say in the appliances section, it says now existing. So, if they had a crappy refrigerator and replaced it, we don't need to hear about the old refrigerator. That's fine. We just want to know about this refrigerator here, right? Now, most importantly, I get this question a lot, especially if there's a lot on here, which is great. The more the better, right? We want as much disclosed. We want it clear. We want no surprises coming up. Absolutely. The buyer sometimes goes, well, wow, I don't want to sign this. And you can say, signing this does not mean you are agreeing to the condition of this house or what's on this document. You are just saying you are in receipt of the document, right? And finally, let's say something happens to the house during the under contract period. I recommend that we update this document while under contract. So do a copy duplicate, so everything's still in there, and just add in whatever happened. Let's say there was a heavy rainstorm, there was some flooding. We got it all fixed. We gave everybody the information, but let's update this document so that we won't have any issues after closing if they're reviewing this. Let me know if you have any questions on any disclosures. Thanks so much.